The venue was alive on September 10th, 2025. Charlie Kirk had just stepped onto the stage to speak at Utah Valley University. Unknown to him, someone was watching from the rooftop when the echo of a single shot cut through the air. It wasn't only a public tragedy, it was the unraveling of a young mind at war with himself. I'm RC. This is the psychology of true crime. And in this story, we'll explore the psychological descent of Tyler Robinson, the alleged accused shooter, who saw ideology as identity and identity as justification. Charlie Kirk was a polarizing conservative voice, known for shaping young political minds. Tyler Robinson, the alleged shooter, is a 22-year-old, quiet, intelligent, and by all accounts, ordinary. They never met face to face, but their worlds collided in a single devastating moment. What made one man a target in the mind of the other? The answer, as always, begins in the unseen spaces, which is inside the mind. According to his family, Tyler began to change in the months before the shooting. He spent more time online exploring gaming communities and identity based groups. He became vocal about LGBTQ plus rights and distanced himself from conservative beliefs. From a clinical perspective, this is a stage of identity reconstruction when the self is torn between who we are and who we are becoming. And when that conflict is not resolved, it could revolve into something darker. Investigators found a note under Tyler's keyboard that read, and I quote, "I took Charlie Kirk out," unquote. Digital records revealed messages. He told friends he had the perfect plan. What began as a disagreement became a fixation, an obsession driven by preserved moral outrage. For some, this might feel righteous, but for the mind in crisis, it feels like purpose. Tyler didn't see this as violence, he saw it as moral correction. That's the most dangerous form of delusion, when the mind justifies destruction in the name of justice. Picture that rooftop, alone in silence, Tyler Robinson's thoughts mirrored to a single focus. That rooftop represents a psychological distance from others, from morality, and from empathy. In that moment, emotion overtook reason. It wasn't just Charlie Kirk he was aiming at, it was an idea, an identity that he blamed for his own inner pain. For some, control becomes a substitute for peace. The nation witnessed another tragic headline. Charlie Kirk's supporters mourned, and Tyler Robinson's family couldn't comprehend. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty in this case, but punishment won't answer the psychological questions of why or how this happened. From a clinical view, this was more than hate. It was the collapse of identity when belonging turns to rage and ideology becomes the only anchor for a drifting self. Radicalization begins where empathy ends. There's a quiet truth we often overlook. Radicalization doesn't begin with hate, it begins with disconnection from self, from others, and from empathy. When a person stops seeing others as human, when emotion is replaced by ideology, and when understanding becomes weakness, the door to radicalization opens. Today's generation is more exposed than ever, not just to information, but to ideological noise. Social media algorithms feed outrage because outrage keeps people engaged. Every scroll reinforces one side, silences the other, and rewards emotional reactivity over reflection. From a psychological lens, this creates what's called identity fusion. It's when a person's sense of self becomes fully emerged with their beliefs, groups, or cause. Once the fusion happens, disagreement feels like personal attack, and moral justification replaces empathy. That's what we often see in a young mind like Tyler Robinson's, where belief systems evolve into identity systems. He didn't just disagree with Charlie Kirk's message, he felt personally attacked by it. That's that's the dangerous shift when an idea becomes a mirror of self-worth. Here's how to notice radicalization early. Psychology, there are patterns, and you'll often notice these. Isolation, withdrawal from diverse social circles or family circles, and white thinking, seeing people as good or evil, loss of empathy, dismissing the pain or perspective of others who disagree, and moral superiority, the belief that what causes harmful action. The early stages look harmless. They could look like a passionate opinion, an online debate, a few strong posts here and there. But when empathy disappears, moral detachment begins. And that's when behavior changes. Here are some precautions on how not to become what you despise. By practicing empathy, when you disagree, empathy is not agreement. It is emotional literacy. It is seeing the human behind the headline. Diversify your input. Follow voices that challenge your beliefs respectfully. Psychological resilience grows through cognitive diversity. Monitor your emotional triggers. If outrage feels addictive, it's because the brain is rewarding it with dopamine. Recognizing that cycle is the first step towards control. Ground your identity outside of ideology. You are not your beliefs. You are the mind that could question them. Reach out before you disconnect, whether to a friend, counselor, or a family member. Connection activates empathy. Radicalization begins when empathy ends, but healing begins where understanding starts. Teach or learn to question with compassion, to debate without dehumanizing, and to value empathy with strength. We could prevent tragedies like this one because sometimes saving others begins with understanding ourselves. What do you think drove Tyler Robinson and what he did? Comment below. I look forward to seeing your comments. And finally, I'd like to end by saying two lives were destroyed, one by the bullet, the other by the belief that fueled it. When ideology becomes identity, disagreement becomes survival. The tragic loss of Charlie Kirk reminds us that the most dangerous wars are not fought between nations, but between human minds. My deepest condolences to the Kirk family, sending you strength and peace. Thank you for watching. I'm RC. This is the Psychology of True Crime. I hope to catch you on the next one.